Everybody, we got a special guest today, Dr. Joshua Garcia, and he is the superintendent of our school district here. We had an opportunity, I think it was last week, where you came to our office at REMAX and just kind of gave us the lowdown on this bond thing that we're about to start voting on here in another 2 or 3 weeks. Actually, I think it starts the 25th.
25th, early voting.
Early voting is the 25th, and then I think on into May is when the actual, hard vote comes in. I found it pretty interesting because I'm not super involved in any type of politics or anything like that. So when I hear the word bond and I see millions of dollars out there, it kind of freaks me out. Like, what is this doing? Where's all my money going? So kind of what we wanted to do is a non-biased just kind of interview so that maybe y'all could share this with your friends and maybe just get a little bit better understanding as to what we need as a school district, what are some of the improvements that we're asking for, and I say we as a community, and just that way everybody's kind of informed, so when they do go to the voting booth, y'all feel like at least I'm not just saying yes to something or no to something based on something I heard from somebody. We're kind of getting it from the horse's mouth today on what the school district they feel needs and what they're asking for. We're kind of just standing as a perfect example right outside the main office building here at the high school. We weren't planning this, we just walked out the front door, and just as an example of some of the maintenance and stuff that they're needing to do. So can you just give us basically like a total dollar amount that the bond is requesting or we're voting on, and then maybe a little bit of a breakdown as to where it's going?
Okay.
And some of the reasons that we're asking for that, I think, is that after Harvey and with COVID, that we're seeing a really large influx in students, which are putting a more of a burden and a strain on our facilities. So I would just say, how much is the total that we're talking about here?
All right. So the bond is a total of $66 million, and that's a number that that the committee came up with. And so the committee was comprised of community members, parents, students, teachers, and principals of each of the 4 campuses, because we had independent studies conducted of all of our facilities over the course of a few months, and then all that information was given to the committee. I was, and my central office administrators, we were hands off from the standpoint of we are not voting, we are not determining, we are just giving you the information, and if there's questions you want to ask about things that came up in the audit, we were there present to be able to answer those questions. So the committee really is who came to this number of $66 million, and so the focus of the bond really is two-pronged. It's the high school and it's Fulton Learning Center. That's the biggest chunk of the bond. Part of the issue we have here at the high school is we're working with old infrastructure from 1953. The junior high here is this section over here that you see, this wing that was built in the 50s. You pan across this way. This is the commons that was built with the 2011 bond that connected the old junior high with the old high school, which was also built in the 1960s. And so it's just a great time right now, so you can kind of know the problems of practice that we have when it relates to old buildings. So in the old junior high, what we have is we have some water leakage under the buildings because of the old clay pots. And so when you're dealing with how plumbing was done in 1950 versus now, then trying to find that leak would require breaking the entire, going inside and breaking and tearing apart, or you just have to find the line, cap it off, and then run some lines above the roof, which is again not an ideal solution, but when you have to do these things in order to minimize your costs. And so why do we have to minimize these types of costs? Because this comes out of the maintenance and operation budget, and the maintenance and operation budget is one of the taxes that the school districts use to pay for teacher salaries, to do general maintenance like this, to also pay for the electricity and water. But those monies, unfortunately, here in Aransas County, get recaptured. We lose 17% of that money that's collected to recapture. So we don't get all of the funding that comes from that tax source.
Yeah, not to interrupt you, this is something I was not really aware of when you came the other day. And so I'm a simple guy, so basically it's kind of like what do they call, like a Robin Hood type situation. Basically, if we have $100,000 in tax money that comes in, that basically the state comes in and takes 17% of our money, regardless of whether we need it or not, and may give it to a school in Midland or El Paso or something, and we don't have any type of say over whether we, if we have, I don't know, $100,000 worth of air conditioners go out and we need that 17% of whatever the dollar amount is, we don't have any say on whether we get to fix our air conditioners if that's the only money we have left over.
Correct, that is correct. So that's the recapture dilemma that we have. So just using that example of the 100,000, so that leaves you with $83,000, but I still have to have that 100. So I have to collect another. I have to take that money from somewhere. So it's really, in order for us to pay for the $100,000 bus or air conditioned fix, it really costs us $117,000.
And another thing that you brought up too was that, and I just really haven't thought about it, having been a fairly new transplant, like a lot of people, a lot of our people here are, is the maintenance requirements of a coastal school and a coastal community are way more than they will be for an inland school. So it's kind of a double whammy against us. We're already losing that 17%, and we already have another 17% cost of operation on top of that just for the area. That's the reason that now we have a $30-something thousand swing versus a 17.
Right, you are absolutely correct, because the 17 million, not only does that recapture come into play, you're talking about rust and corrosion. Again, it just kind of happens to be, we've got some rust and corrosion right there that you can clearly see that happens, that's common in coastal community districts. In Midland, that may not be something that happens frequently. The other thing that I always forget to mention is that when I moved down here, which has been the last year and a half, the first thing I said, well, let's save the electric bill, and why are we running the AC every day? And everybody chuckled at me and said, you don't know about humidity or what? I'm like, well, walk me through that, because I'm not understanding why we're not cutting the power. It's like the minute you cut that AC and the humidity kicks up, you're talking about breeding ground for mold. So our school, our entire organization has to run those ACs year-round, versus in places like Dallas, Fort Worth, they're able to cut their power on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or something to that effect, to where they're able to have that cost savings. So not only do we get recapture, not only do we have to deal with rust and corrosion, not only do we have to deal with running our ACs every day, but then we also have the insurance side of it, which is the windstorm insurance that nobody has to deal with. So there's a lot more added cost to doing business in a coastal community than in a normal community. Now we benefit with the sun and the beach and things like that, so those are the aesthetic beauty parts of it, but with that comes also some added costs.
So the other thing that I would say that I wasn't really aware of is how many people are moving into this community post-Harvey and COVID. And I think you said something like y'all added an additional like 200 kids to the area. So one of the other things, and I won't keep you a long time, but one of the other things is going for security upgrades to help keep our kids safe. We are also talking about the lunch program. You mentioned that y'all are having to ship meals from one of the other campuses over here, because one of them doesn't even have a kitchen facility that's operational. Correct. Just to be able to warm.
And that's again, it goes back to the whole high school in Fulton is the biggest ticket items. The food is cooked here in our kitchen facilities back in this area, and then that food, so you're talking about 700 meals are then delivered to another campus across town over in Fulton. I'm gonna make sure I'm pointing right over in Fulton this way. And so then it gets kept warm at that school, but then when they run out, or should they run out, and then when you're talking about kids having choice food, how do I know what a kid wants on a given day? And that's when the kids come here to eat, they have 3 or 4 choices, whereas once we prepare 700 meals, it's we have to kind of calculate the estimation of what a kid might or might not want. So you may have where you do 500 pizzas and you run out of pizza, so that last group that has lunch, they're not getting pizza. They might have to be stuck with
bologna or something.
steak fingers or bologna or something like that. But I do want to mention this real quick before we wrap it up. We talked about maintenance and operation, and that this kind of everyday work is here. But the beauty of a bond tax, no tax is ever beautiful. Let me rephrase that. But the benefit of a bond tax is that tax, 100% of that dollar that's raised stays here in Aransas County. It does not get recaptured. So you know, when you're looking at something like ACs, would you rather spend $100? You know, in the example we used earlier, we said we needed $100,000 for HVAC. Would we rather spend $100,000 for HVAC out of a bond tax on the bond side, or are we going to spend $117 out of the maintenance and operation? And that 17 is what cuts into your teacher salary and things like that. So again, no tax is ever a great thing, but this is the mechanism that we currently have in the public education system to build buildings, to renovate buildings, to do those high cost capital projects that you need to take care of business.
So brass tacks, before we go, I did a little calculation, which you can too, so I'm not making this up. There's placards. Can I see that one right quick? Mm-hmm. There's these placards they've made up that are at the school, or they're around town that you can get. There's also a link that we're going to put up kind of in the banner where y'all can get the website. It'll actually tell you, you can just figure on your home. I just threw in a number. We sell a lot of $400,000 or $500,000 houses around here. If you have a $500,000 house, it's going to be about an extra $35 a month on taxes, which for a great school and everything isn't bad. I know I can say it because it's my channel and I get to say what I want. You can't, which is if you have a better school system, you have better facilities, your property values will go up. I know it costs a little money to do that, but we're also trying to take care of these kids out here and give them a quality education. And that quality education and those better facilities means they'll come back here and help this community still build. Also, one other thing, we have a lot of older folks in the community. If I'm 65 years old and I'm retired, how is this going to affect me?
So state law, you know, caps property tax. So according to state law, a bond tax would not impact qualifying seniors 65 and over who have a homestead here in our community, as well as disabled veterans, and so they shouldn't see that impact at all. But you know, get with the appraisal district.
But you got to have your paperwork
sure,
filled out and everything.
You got to do all.
Done.
Yeah, correct. You got to do everything on your end to make sure. And if you don't know, I'd be on the you know, phone to the appraisal district to make sure you've got everything turned in correctly.
Well, good deal. Well, Dr. Garcia, I want to really thank you today for letting us integrate, take your time.
Great.
And y'all like our channel, subscribe to it, share it with who you can so we can get this information out. I know I'm joking about being biased one way or the other, but it's just better if everybody's informed. So we'll see you on the next round.